स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे दयोश्रित्या प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। ॐ नमः श्री राजाय विवेकानन्द सूरये सच्चिद सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने तपहारिणे। शिव शिव महाशिव शिव राम कृष्ण नाम। शिव शिव महाशिव शिव राम कृष्ण नाम। ब्रह्मा विष्णु सर्वदेव रामकृष्ण दीप्त नाम। कार्तिकेय गणपति विश्वकर्मा विश्वमान। युगदेव रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण ब्रह्मनाम। शिव शिव महाशिव शिव रामकृष्ण नाम। धर्म कर्म लक्ष्मी योगी महादेवी महेश्वर मोक्ष क्षेम सर्वदेव देवी श्री योगेश्वरा। दूर सर्वसिद्धपरायणा रामकृष्ण परम ब्रह्म नित्यनित्यमेश्वरा शिव शिव महाशिव शिव रामकृष्ण ब्रह्मा विष्णु सर्वदेव रामकृष्ण दीप्तना शिव शिव महाशिव शिव रामकृष्ण आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां शिवोरिन मोहिनी विश्वविलासिनी शिवोरिन मोहिनी विश्वविलासिनी रामकृष्ण जयदायिनी मां रामकृष्ण जयदायिनी मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां जगत जननी त्रिलोकपालिनी जगत जननी त्रिलोकपालिनी विश्वसुवासिनी शुभदे मां विश्वसुवासिनी शुभदे मां दुर्गति नाशिनी सम्पत्ति दायिनी दुर्गति नाशिनी सम्पत्ति दायिनी भोग मोक्ष सुखकारिणी मां भोग मोक्ष सुखकारिणी मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां परमे पार्वती सुंदरी भगवती परमे पार्वती सुंदरी भगवती दुर्गे भावती त्वं मे मां दुर्गे भावती त्वं मे मां प्रसीद माता नागेन्द्रनन्दिनी प्रसीद माता नागेन्द्रनन्दिनी चिरसुखदायिनी जय दे मां चिरसुखदायिनी जय दे मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां आनंद रूपिणी आनंद गुणवती आनंद नामिनी गिरिजे मां
I'm delighted to see all of you here. Welcome on behalf of Vedanta Center of Greater Austin. See the exuberant atmosphere, enthusiasm, all bubbling with joy. I'm very delighted to see that. And your presence today is very valuable for Vedanta Center of Greater Austin. Thank you for coming. And many of you would have received the invitation from Eventbrite. You see there, they say special retreat. What is special about that retreat? The special retreat is because we are celebrating 10th anniversary of Vedanta Center of Greater Austin. And it's more befitting, there could be nothing more befitting than this, to celebrate the 10th anniversary in the presence of, holy presence of Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. And we are delighted about that. To be more appropriate, I think I should give at least some brief account of how this 10th year went by. How did we grow? It's only appropriate. Bear with me. I'm not going to read all these things. Just make it very brief. Way back in 1997, about 25 years ago, a group of employees from University of Texas, Austin, they met. Said they were very enthusiastic. We should start Vedanta Society. And they called that as Vivekananda Vedanta Society. It's the first one where we had that single seed sown. And the group of those employees, they just joined together and had what is called the study circle. That is, they study the scriptures, mainly Sri Ramakrishna order of scriptures, and then discussed among themselves, and then share their understanding and all that. This went on for 3 years, and they had the blessings of Swami Chidananda Maharaj from Vivekananda Vedanta Society, Chicago. And they also had the blessings of Swami Sarvadevananda Maharaj, who is our current guiding monk. So with that inspiration, they started for 3 years. And after 3 years, there comes the second stage of growth of Vedanta Center of Greater Austin. The second stage of growth comes in the year 2010. Swami Swahananda Maharaj, minister in charge then of this Vedanta Society of Southern California, he inspired a devotee. I don't know which devotee. I think most of those people who started this Vedanta Center, they're all here. They prefer to be anonymous. I cannot introduce them to you. That is very anonymous indeed. And he inspired devotees, and they joined together, said, we will start. What do we start? Maharaj clearly said it should be Vedanta Center of Greater Austin. So they started Vedanta Center of Greater Austin, 2010. Then that was also focused on the study circle. And the study circle mainly focused on Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And they studied, they discussed, they questioned them and themselves, they tried to improve their understanding by sharing, not by debating, arguing, no. It's by sharing their thoughts, their understanding. After that comes third stage of the growth. That stage is extremely important and also emotional. And you will see just in a moment how it is emotional. Swami Swahananda Maharaj, through his establishment of an organization called Shri Ramakrishna Ashrama, belonging to the Vedanta Society of Southern California, through that assistance, he encouraged to buy a property, just a small house, single family house. Most of you have seen it, very humble house. And with that as complete assistance, complete contribution, complete support, we bought that house which is now housing the main shrine. And after that house was bought, Swami Swananda Maharaj traveled all the way from Southern California to dedicate the building and to provide adequate inspiration for all the devotees. And that inspiration is actually recorded at that stage for complete activation of the spirit. He came, you will not forget this, he came with a physician because his health was on the decline. He spent his time and inspired people, blessed the center. After that, he left for Southern California. Within 3 days, he attained Mahasamadhi. That was a moving incident for us. In the last days of his life, he gave such a dedicated work. See that the center comes up, grows, inspired all the devotees around. That is a monumental sacrifice. And that is why I'm saying it's emotional and very important stage of the growth of this center. Then comes the fourth stage. In the fourth stage, you remember our guiding monk, Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. He succeeded Swami Swahananda Maharaj after that, and he equally supported the center. And he encouraged through the Ramakrishna Ashrama attached to the Vedanta Society, Southern California, we will provide the assistance to buy another house, very next to the house which has the shrine. And we bought that house too. In that house, we had some important activities. Service to the human society, human being. And the major activity we have, very unique compared to all other Vedanta centers. We have what is called homeless service. There are some champions doing this homeless service for us. They are all anonymous. They are here. And that activity took a very bright turn in that house. Besides, we also have visiting monks and nuns staying in that house. And this was going on for the past 10 years. In fact, if you recall, 1997, for the past 25 years, strictly speaking. And many monks from various places, overseas, domestic, they visited the center. They gave lectures and they performed pujas. Most of our people are attracted to pujas. They perform pujas, homas, meditation, teaching. All these things add to the vibration, spiritual vibrations to the shrine. So visiting the shrine and worshipping there has a lot of spiritual benefit because the spiritual vibrations are all transmitted by many of our monks, senior monks. So that is how we have grown. But I'm sorry, I'm taking some time, bear with me. If you imagine the world map of Vedanta. In the world map of Vedanta, we are a tiny dot. The dot size irreducible minimum. So we are growing only incrementally. So I will take this occasion to request you all to extend your generosity in support of this center. And another request I will make is, at the end of the talk, please do not forget to collect your prasad bag. And if you need in the next 3 days any information or how many Monks are visiting the center this year. We want to know. We will provide you that information. What is the future events for the center? We will provide you that information. Please feel free to ask any question regarding this to many of the volunteers. You can see our volunteers will be running about busy as you go through these events. You will see who they are. Please ask us. We'll try to help you on that. Now comes this next step, that is the step of introducing Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj, who is going to deliver all the 3 days impressive talks. You know Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj. You have been following him very closely and you are more knowledgeable. I am only mediocre in the knowledge. I don't know much, but you'll be knowing more. Is there any need to introduce Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj? He needs no introduction at all. Wherever Vedanta is spoken in the world, his name will come up. In general, anywhere in the world, Vedanta is spoken, his name will come up. But in particular, YouTube world, his name will be prominent everywhere. So there is no need for introduction. And I recall Swami Swami Sarvadevananda Maharaj once introduced Swami Sarvapriyananda Maharaj in a meeting which I was remotely attending. In that meeting he said, I present to you YouTube Swami. That's all. Finished. Introduction is done. So with that, Maharaj, Pranam, please, I welcome you to take the charge of the podium.
Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namah. Namaste and good evening, everybody. I get the impression that I know quite a few of you, but masks, so I'm not quite sure. But anyways, namaste and welcome to this beautiful space. I'm so amazed to see this beautiful space, and I cannot be grateful enough to the church authorities who have been so hospitable in letting us use this space for our program. Of course, I'm very grateful to the Vedanta Center of Greater Austin for organizing this event, this very significant event, and inviting me to participate in this and meet all of you. You know the program, so today's subject is a more general subject, the harmony of religions, Shri Ramakrishna and the harmony of religions. It's particularly apt because we are in a church. Tomorrow it is Vedanta, what one might call hardcore Vedanta. So tomorrow that's there. And day after tomorrow again is Sri Ramakrishna presenting Advaita Vedanta. Something normally you don't associate Sri Ramakrishna, you see him, most people see him as a devotee, a child of Kali. But Vedanta, his unique presentation of Advaita Vedanta, that's what we will discuss on Sunday. But today, keep an eye on the time. I've been accused often, Swami, you know how to begin a talk. You don't know where to end. Harmony of religions. Religion is at the source of our civilization. I was reading, some of you may have read that classic work on, new work on history, Sapiens. Yuval Noah Harari, the Israeli historian. So there, he said something that was very remarkable about the origin of civilization and the origin of religion. The general idea which we have all got in school is, agriculture started, people have always been religious. Even in caves you have found, there's paintings which seem remotely religious. But organized religion, which led to this, the church or us, religion as we know it. The story goes that, people started agriculture, and then they settle down, because if you are doing agriculture, you have to settle down. You can't be a nomad anymore. So you settle down, and then there's a central place of worship. There are special people now dedicated, just like you have special farmers, you'll have special priests, and so on. And the organized religion starts. That's the idea. And he says, Yuval Noah says, wrong. He gives the example of the most ancient discovered habitation, permanent habitation for human beings going back several thousand years, beginning of agriculture. But there he says the evidence is very troubling, it's very interesting. That it's not that agriculture started first. He gives the evidence of how it was actually a place of prehistoric worship. And the tribes had to gather together. And when you have large numbers of nomadic tribes gathered together, you have a problem of feeding everybody. Right? Prasad. 100%. Now you have to give prasad to everybody. So even large numbers of people gather and stay together for a while, you have to have a good source of food. And so agriculture became established. They started doing agriculture on a permanent basis. Which leads to a very interesting conclusion. Religion was the reason why agriculture started, not the other way around. And that is sort of intuitively, it feels right. And the source of our civilization is religion. It's not that first we became settled, civilized, and then religion came about. Rather, religion was the primary motive for our civilization. And from that time, prehistoric time down till today, we see that religion has been at the source of our morals, our, the way we deal with each other, the contract which is at the basis of all civilized life, the marriage, the family bond, about a state, all of that, individual morals, all of that can be traced back to religion across the world. Having said that, we must also acknowledge that religion is also at the source of a lot of trouble, a lot of mischief. Religion has been, not religion itself, but religion has been used for hatred, for violence, for warfare, and continues to be used to this date, which is so alarming. I have come from New York. So in New York, if you say 9/11, it means only one thing: the destruction of the Twin Towers. So if you ask any New Yorker who was there at that time, I wasn't, but any New Yorker, they all remember where they were, what they were doing on that day at that time. So it's a devastating, dramatic event, which led up to a long war which is sort of barely winding down now. So religion has been at the source of so much trouble. And it's so strange that religion should be at the source of so much trouble. Because religion is about love, about even the word religion, the original Latin root means to bind together. So how is that religion as this source of separating people, creating hatred and dislike and so on? Today, religion faces very big challenges. I'm not talking about Nietzsche's The Death of God. It is famously Friedrich Nietzsche said, God is dead. I remember seeing this cartoon, and the wall writing, somebody's written on the wall, God is dead, Friedrich Nietzsche. Below that somebody is scrawled, Nietzsche is dead, God. Signed by God. One of our monks, who is in a center in Europe, in Switzerland actually, elderly monk, he told this funny story. Once he was passing through airport in Paris, and the immigration people there asked him a question, what do you do? They couldn't understand this whole monk, spirituality. Finally they understood, oh, God! Don't you know God is dead? I suppose he was joking, but our Swami was a greater wit. He said, he may be dead here, go to India, you'll see he's alive and kicking. No, I'm not speaking about that problem. I am sure, and by now most people are sure, religion is here to stay. Religion is not going away. But religion is certainly changing. Transformation, tremendous transformation is happening. And Ken Wilber, he has said, religion in the 21st century, to survive in the 21st century, it needs to do three things. One, first, must stop fighting with each other in the name of religion. The religions of the world have to stop fighting with each other, stop fostering hatred against each other. The exact issue Wilbur was talking about was what turns of young people against religion. It's not true that young people are not spiritual. Human beings are by nature spiritual, and they will continue to be spiritual. And young people today also are spiritual. They have a spiritual quest, but it's just that something in organized religion is turning them away. So the first thing he said is what concerns us today, today's subject. He says that religions of the world have to stop fighting with each other in the name of religion. Then the second thing he said was religions of the world have to stop going against science. What is established in science, what is mainstream science. I'm not talking about scientism, but what is mainstream science. Don't go against that. People are not going to accept it today. And the third thing is the religions of the world have to update themselves about values. So modern values in 21st century about race and caste and gender and so on. So religions of the world may not teach those things, but at least they should not be against what is the values that most of the youth today they espouse and they hold on to. But our concern is the first one. This rivalry, this mutual hatred and dislike and fight between religions. And here is the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. That's our subject, the harmony of religions. Now, this is not really a subject which is very serious for Hindus. I'm presuming most of us here are Hindus. See, when we talk about that, the Hindus will shrug, okay, I'm fine with that. All religions are true, the religions lead to God, people can follow different religions, what's the problem? So I'm trying to, they say preaching to the choir. I'm trying to talk about something that most people here agree with anyway. But the reason I'm doing that is, and the reason we are here, the reason Sri Ramakrishna is here, this is actually what Hinduism can, what you can contribute to society. Swami Vivekananda, when he came here in the World Parliament of Religions, 1893 in Chicago, one of the things he repeatedly said, what can India give to the West? He said that there is something that India has unique, which the world needs more than ever. 100 years ago he said, and sadly I would say, sadly, it continues to be relevant even today. If it was not relevant, it would have been very nice. If people lived in harmony, there was no religious fight. There is violence for many reasons, but at least we are here specifically concerned with violence on religious grounds. If it was not there, it would have been fine. And you would expect, 21st century, come on, why fight in the name of religion? But it is there. And what Swami Vivekananda said, what Sri Ramakrishna said, and what Hinduism can give continues to be relevant in this day and age, in this country also. So that's why we are here. I remember this rabbi, he had come to India and I was showing him around our temple. And he does a lot of work. Alon Gottstein, Rabbi Gottstein. So he does a lot of work in interfaith. And he's deeply connected with the Parliament of Religions. You do know that the Parliament of Religions is still going on, right? 1893 World Parliament of Religions, then it stopped. In 1994, 93 it was revived again. And now every 4 years, I think, they have a Parliament of Religions. They're going to have it next year, back in Chicago again, next year. So this rabbi is very deeply connected with interfaith work. I was showing him around, talking about what I talked about, to what I'm going to talk about today, harmony of religions. And I still remember, he stopped and looked at me. And he said, you say a lot about the harmony of religions, peace between religions, but in India I don't see, where are the seminars and conferences and declarations and papers and commissions for establishing harmony of religion? Nothing seems to be happening here. And I said, you're right, because it's not necessary. In general, at least as far as the Indian religions are concerned, all Hinduism in all its bewildering variety, and Buddhism, and Jainism, and Sikhism, there is really no problem as such, and hasn't been for centuries. So I said to him that we don't really need conferences and seminars and all of that, because it is in the very, the blood of the people, the very culture of the people. in Belur Mutt, our main monastery, I remember there is a mosque just outside the gate. And I can never forget how, on a particular religious ritual, the Chhat Puja, which is a worship of God in the form of the sun. So thousands of people from the neighboring areas, they come to the Ganga, the river, in Belur Mutt, and they perform. You need to perform that early in the morning, the rituals in the river. And as they come, I saw these women coming, clearly not highly educated, from poor families. They looked like that, and they were coming, and they passed by the mosque. They were carrying the offerings which they will offer in the river, but they passed by the mosque and they do this peculiarly Indian gesture you'll recognize. That this is a gesture of, here I am passing by a house of God. It's automatic. I'm going to a holy place. This is also a holy place. So this is something that is very common in India, not so common in the world outside. I remember one of our senior monks told me that once a very well-known Christian theologian was visiting India and visiting one of our ashrams, Mayavati ashram established by Swami Vivekananda high in the Himalayas, Garhwal mountains there. And this Christian theologian and one of our Swamis, they were walking down. The villagers came up, they bowed down to the Swami, and they started bowing down and touching the feet of the Christian theologian. And the theologian said, he was, I think, British probably. He said to the Swami, "Oh, please tell them, I don't belong to their religion. They shouldn't bow down to me." And the Swami had to explain, it doesn't matter to them. You are a holy man, and that's enough for them. So this is what I mean by being in the very culture of the people there. You don't have to say, Ekam Sat Vipra Bhavada Vadanti, the truth is one, the wise talk it differently. Most of those audit people, they don't know these things. They have never read Sanskrit, they have never read the Vedas, but it's a practical wisdom. And this is what we need to share. That Rabbi Alon Goshen Gottstein, I told him, I have this question. The World Parliament of Religions, what we teach and what we share, I as a Hindu, especially as a follower of Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada, Swami Vivekananda, we accept all of that fully. I mean, genuinely, we believe in that. All the liberal ideas of religion. So why should I go there? What new thing can I learn there? And he said that you all, as representatives of Thakur Ma Swamiji, you should come to share this. This is necessary. This is what you can contribute to the present dialogue. Robert Wright, who was a neo-Darwinian, and he lives in Princeton. He's written a number of books applying Darwinism to various subjects, evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology, and religion. So he's written a book, The Evolution of God. Obviously, it doesn't mean that God evolves, but our understanding of God evolves. So it's mostly about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But he mentions Hinduism towards the end. The prospect of peace between the major world religions. There he says, the ancient Indians, the Vedic Indians, they found a formula which holds prospects for the peace between religions. And the formula was, the truth is one, the wise speak of it differently. We immediately recognize it as Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. This is from the Rig Veda, the most ancient text of the Hindus. And Robert Wright says that this helped the ancient Indians to have peace between religious traditions. Know that India was not a particularly peaceful place. There were empires and kingdoms and so many wars were fought. And the Bhagavad Gita itself is set in the Mahabharata in the context of the war. So there are so many wars. No war in the name of religion. That's so amazing when you consider the history of religion in the rest of the world. A very religious country never fought a war in the name of religion. No such. Neither any of the Hindu schools, nor the Buddhists, nor the Jains. There's so much of debate and changes and conversions and between religions, and yet no war. Nobody thought of going and killing people in the name of religion. Ever. In ancient India. So how? Here is this formula. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise speak of it differently. If you come to the Vedanta Society in New York, when you enter, it's a small place. You enter that, on the big wall, one side, in big letters, it's written, the truth is one, and the wise speak of it differently. So this is the central message of Sri Ramakrishna, one of the central messages of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda, when he came to the World Parliament of Religions, he said, I'm proud to belong to, that was also 9/11, by the way, 1893, 9/11, September 11th, 1893. So it's very significant that way, the same date. There he said, I'm proud to belong to a religion which teaches universal toleration, not just universal acceptance, not just toleration. So when you use the word toleration, it means that it's not very charitable. It means that I am right, you are wrong, I'm just tolerating you. If circumstances were different, I would give you a good whack. But I am just tolerating you. Whom do you tolerate? Naughty children, annoying neighbor. So that is not very charitable. But he says, we believe in universal acceptance. And he says that the truth of all religions is equally acceptable to me. Why do we quarrel? Swami Vivekananda says that he told the story of the frog in the well. That there was a frog in the well, and he thought that this little well was the whole world. One day, another frog dropped into the well. And this frog said, hello, where have you come from? And that visiting frog said, I'm from the ocean. Ocean? What's that? Oh, how can I describe it to you? It's vast. Vast? Bigger than my well? Bigger than this? And he jumped from one end of the well to the other and back again. Bigger than this? And that other frog said, oh, how can I tell you? You have no idea. It's much, much incomparably bigger. And then this frog said, you lie. Nothing can be bigger than my well. Out with you, and kicked out this visiting frog. Now, Vivekananda said, each of us in our little well, the Hindu in his well, the Christian in his well, the Muslim and the Buddhist in their respective wells, we think that's all that there is. And we have no idea how vast the actual world of God is, how wide and diverse it is. I think this message comes at a particularly important, significant time, because the world has come together like nothing else. So we have to learn how to live together and make the world's religions our common heritage, which it is. It's our common heritage. Swami Vivekananda further said, I am proud to belong to the religion which has sheltered in its bosom the